ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ.
We know this is a there's very serious crimes committed against you, sexual abuse. Now, to the audience, I've spoken to you many times before, but to the audience who don't know, when did this abuse start and who did this abuse?
So it started very young, about the age of 6, and it was my father.
Do you think it could have happened before that?
I do think it could have happened before that. What I remember isn't certain acts. I remember feeling uncomfortable. I remember being groomed a certain way. I remember just being manipulated and to believe everything he was saying was right. There was a sense of like terror that would take over. And it wasn't just fearing an adult. It wasn't fearing like that's your father, you fear them. It was like complete terror.
Did he go straight on to full abuse straight away?
No, it wasn't straight away. When I look back at it, there was a lot of things that led up to it. There was a lot of like behavior that was taunting. There was a lot of just a whole like mind takeover. Like there was no sound sense of self for me. There was.
When you said taunting, so can you remember, would he belittle you? Would he say certain things to you?
Yeah, there was like if I ever said anything, it was that's not the right way, or there's no way I can remember that, or there's no way I'm feeling that, there's no way I can think that. Everything that I thought or felt was wrong. There was always something that came back, and he would say things like you're a kid, what do you know? And he would like shut me down, like if you say something I will slap you. There was a lot of that kind of behavior, very like just like minimizing like as self.
So would he be overpowering you with his words, but would he ever physically slap you, assault you?
He would. So it was intimidating through like every means possible.
And how far back can you remember, not sexual abuse, but the physical violence against you?
I don't know any different.
Can you remember that first time, the sexual abuse?
No. I remember certain parts. I don't remember the exact first act. I remember being very confused. I remember like a sudden feel of like complete blankness.
Was it evening time? Was it towards bedtime? Was it daytime? Do you remember anything like that? Was it in the home?
It was in the home. I'm sure people were awake. And sorry, I can't.
You can't go back that far. Okay. And then from there on, would the abuse, once it's happened, would the abuse be a regular thing?
It was. It was a normal thing in my life. I didn't know anything different.
Off camera, you were talking about sort of very vivid memory of that first event, or maybe events afterwards.
I remember being very little, like my feet wouldn't reach the edge of the couch. I remember sitting and I was playing with something, and like I had something in my hand, and he came and sat really close to me, and he was like whispering something, and it was very, and I felt very uncomfortable. And I remember his face. I remember his dark hair, his dark mustache. And he only had like a mustache at that time. And I remember he was wearing this beige shirt. And I remember like just getting that goosebump feeling. And it was very uncomfortable. Like, I was very uncomfortable. I remember I kept fidgeting I was listening to what he was saying, but I wasn't looking at him. And he was touching my thigh and he was touching my arm. And I kept fidgeting with this thing.
Would you have been downstairs or upstairs in your room? Can you sort of...
No, there was
Can
a
you
couch.
recall?
There was a couch.
So you'd be probably more like in the dining room or downstairs?
Yeah.
And this abuse carried on for how many years, dear?
14 long years.
And again, would it be, as far back as you can remember, would it be once a week, once a month, or more sort of common than that?
It was frequent. It was enough times a week, sometimes many times a day. It was, it got more and more frequent.
So there'd be days when it would be more than once a day then?
Yeah.
Okay. And would most of your abuse take place at home, or were there other places around where he would abuse you?
There were other places. There was in the car. There was when he would drive to go pay his bills, which was at City Hall, and I would wait outside. And I'm just remembering like his words, like he would just be very like soft-spoken and kind and like sweet, like you would talk to a little child if you're giving them a praise. And yeah, and it would be sometimes at people's houses. It would be, we took a trip back home. It happened then a few times.
When you say home?
Back in India.
Okay. How old was you then?
The last time I was 13.
So he abused you at his ancestral home in Punjab? How long was you in Punjab for?
I think a couple of months.
Did it only happen on the one occasion or many occasions there?
No, it happened more than once.
So coming back to the in the car and City Hall, I'm just trying to get my head around it. You're in the middle of the day, there's plenty of people around. And where was your car parked? In a car park somewhere where there's nobody there, or?
Right in the front, right by street parking, right in front of City Hall. And but I was little, like I couldn't even see over the window. I remember he would say things like, "Oh, I'm going to let you sit in the front," and I remember we weren't allowed to sit in the front because we were kids. And so it was like a treat, and he would get me food and be like, "Oh, I'm getting you food." And there would be people walking around. There'd be normal people walking around, and he would. I don't remember like if he looked up or anything like that to see, but he would try. Like, yeah, he would just see. He would do what he needed to do. It wasn't. He would never. It was never that my clothes would be off or my pants would be down. It would always be on top of the clothes. It'd be him going through the top of my shirt or under my shorts, and my shorts would be like really big and loose shorts, and then a lot of the times it was his hand down his pants, but nothing was visible to like the naked, like somebody walking by. But yeah, it was broad daylight.
And were there other places? I mean, you said that even in other people's homes, or your other family members' homes. Or
Yeah.
Montreal would be one place. Any other places?
Yeah, we often had sleepovers to many of their. They had a couple of friends who I know they still do, and we would go to their house and have sleepovers, or the kids would sleep over, and he would find a way there. He would always be the one that came and checked on the kids. He would always be the one that, like, would have to. He was just the one that was around. Like, it was no. He would make it a point to be like, I'll go do this, or I'll call the kids, or I'll go make sure they're sleeping.
Yeah, I was. We've had these many conversations before, and I mean, most of the abuse would have happened in the bedroom.
In the house.
In the house. Yeah. How did it make you feel? Or can you sort of go back in time and when you're lying in bed and you may hear him coming up the stairs and.
I don't think I ever slept.
No.
Every creak, every sound, everything. My body would just tense. It was like I slept with one eye open.
And what was his move? He would just sort of drag you out of bed. Were you not with other siblings in the room?
Yeah, I was. He would hit my feet, tell me to wake up, and he would even pinch if I didn't. And I was too scared not to listen. I would pretend that I was sleeping, or I would pretend like I would go to a point where I wouldn't even breathe. So I'm like, for some reason, like, I don't know, I was like, if he just doesn't think I'm awake, maybe he'll go away, but he never went away. He just would pinch harder, or twist my toe, or hit my feet.
Were you sharing that bedroom with your sister or
I was.
other siblings?
I was sharing the bedroom with my sister.
Just the one person you were sharing with?
And till this day, I don't understand how she never woke up.
Would the abuse happen on the bed, or?
No, he would actually pull me off the bed, and we have this mattress that we would pray on, and he would often sit and pray on it, and sometimes he would lay on that mattress. Or it would be on the floor. Sometimes he would take me into the bathroom.
Is this where most of the abuse took place?
Yes. We used to have our bed against the window. And then we had a little shelf here. And the mattress that I actually talk about used to be on the floor here. And he would come in, and I could hear the floor creaking. And he's a heavier person. And I would sleep beside the wall. And I remember so many times just laying there and like not breathing, and just thinking that maybe he'll come and just not do anything.
But then that wasn't the case. He would do so.
He would wake me up, however, and then bring me here. And then
How long would the abuse last for?
Some like 20 minutes or so, half an hour sometimes.
And you never spoke about this to anyone while you were young?
No. And we had a bathroom in the bottom level of the house. And I don't think there's much you could hear from that bathroom. And
So are we talking about the basement?
The basement. And my room was right by the stairs to the basement.
Okay. So a lot of the abuse would happen in the basement as well?
In the bathroom.
In the bathroom. You said that he used to say certain words to you, like every daughter has a relationship with their father like this.
Yeah. He would say like this is how I show, like मैं तेनू प्यार करता हूँ. And like just certain words that like when you translate them, it's like every father is like this, or every father does this, or every father shows their love like this. He just made it seem so normal.
So when you're growing up, you know, moving on from 6, if you're 10, 11, 12, did you ever thought that if he's saying these kind of things to you, that every father has a relationship with his daughter like this, did it ever occur to you that he might be doing it to your younger sister?
Yeah. But for some reason in my brain, like, I was isolated. In my brain, I believe that this is when I came to realize what it was. It became very isolating. It became very that I'm going through this.
Okay. So when did the penny finally drop? When did you realization hit, and what age was it?
It was at the age of 13. And it was through a sex ed curriculum at school. And we were just watching something, and on TV they show these videos through this class you have to take through physical education. And at one point, like, they're just talking about like other stuff, their body developing, sexual intercourse, things like that, and then it just goes into sexual abuse. And I remember there were these like 2 arms up, and I remember the word on the screen, and for some reason, like, I was so curious, and I watched it, I listened to it, and I froze. And I remember realizing that this is happening to me, and it's my dad. And I remember thinking, I can't tell anybody it's my dad. And I had no idea what to do. And at that point, like, everything I had ever known to be true became a lie. Everything that I felt uncomfortable about, everything I had questioned in the past, every feeling I had felt, every anger, anything I had ever felt, it was all real. And it all made sense. And it all was like now when I look back at it, like, thank God for that class. Like, thank God for that education, because I don't know where I would be if I wasn't
So that
sitting
one
in that
lesson,
class.
it just clicked.
And they were emphasizing, like, it's wrong. It's a violation. It's they're talking about consent. And I remember feeling all those things. I remember feeling like I was just violated. I was just torn apart. And yeah.
So just that penny dropping then, and you spoke about your feelings. What was your next sort of step?
I did tell somebody that day, but it wasn't anybody in authority. And I was advised that I need to tell my mom about it. And I remember feeling like I couldn't. I didn't know what to do. I still remember that day like it was yesterday.
So you told a school friend?
I told a friend.
Navdeep told me about what happened to her in school. I remember she had a very creative way of sharing it. It was through a game. I think that made it easier for her to tell me. I remember being really surprised. I remember feeling hurt for her. And I remember feeling like powerless. So I remember that the best I could do at the time was to give her some advice, the best a 12-year-old could give. And I tried to just be present and to listen. She decided that we would play hangman. And she spelled out 2 words with the blocks. And I get frustrated easily, I know, so I think I asked for a hint. And she told me that the hint was something she has had to live with. And it turned out that the 2 words were sexual abuse.
How did she take it? Do you remember the look on her face when you told her?
I remember we were both scared. And we were just scared. We didn't know what to do. I know she was angry for me. And, but mostly we were scared. We're little. We're only 13.
What time was the lesson? Towards the end of the day? Or?
Midday, like
Midday.
after a break.
And you attended school after that lesson and carried on
I did.
in school?
I sat through the whole day because I couldn't go home. I would get in trouble. They would ask me.
So you've told your friend, then what happens?
Then I walk home
Alone?
alone. And I remember that was like the longest walk ever. And I remember just holding my head down. And I remember hesitating to open my door and go inside. And I remember looking at everybody, and it was like all slow motion. Like everybody's just
all
coming
home?
in.
They were all home?
No, they were all coming in one at a time. And I'm just like, I didn't know who to say what to. I remember just looking at everybody's faces. And I remember just freezing. Like I froze. I froze in time.
And did anybody come and speak to you and ask you what's happening? Or?
No.
What transpired after that then? That particular day, how did it... did you ever talk to your mom? Did you?
No. It was like any other day. Just do homework, make food, get ready for bed, and that's it.
But I believe that he kept doing what he was doing to you even after that lesson.
Yeah, I did. I knew by like every act after that, it was very prominent to me. I knew exactly what he was doing. And I knew like it wasn't right.
When did you actually say enough is enough?
I didn't. I fought a long time against it. I even as a kid, I remember screaming, trying to scream. When I got older, I remember trying to push him away. I remember nearly like just my arm, like I remember trying to pull my arm away so many times so I wouldn't touch him, or he wouldn't make me touch him. And it didn't stop until I told my mom about it.
How old was you then, dear?
14, a good year after that lesson.
So what prompted you to finally go to your mother?
Somebody else was experiencing something in the house that we lived with.
Okay.
And they had mentioned it to me one day. They were upset, and she had mentioned it to me what had happened to her that day. And then in the coming days after she had told me, we had had a discussion amongst like us kids, when I mean like not my brother and sister included, but me, this other person and her older sister, and they told me I needed to tell my mom. And for that reason, I told her.
So listening to her, did you then straight away went to your mum?
No, it was in the coming days. I was scared. We had to talk about it. They really enforced that I needed to do this, and I needed to go and tell my mom about this, and then yeah.
Was the day that you told your mum, was she the only one in the house, or were there other people around you when you told her?
We were alone in her room, but there were other people in the house. I think mostly everybody was home. And but she was by herself in the house, in her room, and she was putting clothes away. And I just sat down and told her I had to tell her something. It wasn't as easy, like it wasn't easy talking to my parent, like mom, about anything. I had to really like catch her attention and be like, no, this is serious, like I need you to sit down. And when I told her, it was like she needed an explanation. And it was like, well, what do you what he slapped you? He's like, what do you mean cheeria? What do you mean hatlaya? And I remember I didn't have the words. I didn't have the vocabulary to explain it to her. All I had was the images in my head, what I was feeling, everything that was happening. And I remember pointing to body parts and being like, no, he's been touching me here. He's been touching me here. And she was completely baffled. She was like, I don't know if she was in disbelief or if she knew. But it did not go well for me at all. It turned into something I
She
was
didn't
doing
believe
wrong. No. She said he wouldn't do it off the bat. Or like right away. She was like, no, he wouldn't do that. I'm gonna ask him. And I remember telling her, please don't ask him. She's like, no, I have to. And I remember being scared. I remember sitting there and being like, that's it. He's gonna kill me.
So did she go downstairs and confront?
She called them up into, at that point, we were in a different room, and she called him up, and we sat in that room, and she was sitting in the middle, and he was sitting on her one side, I was sitting on the other side. And she said, Deep Gandia vi Chediaya. And he was like, no. And when I look back at it now, I think like his answering, he didn't need an explanation. He knew right away. So what was he like saying no to? And he denied the whole thing. And she said that he said if I have done something, I didn't mean it like that. And he was still like, you could still tell like that taunting behavior, that taunting look. And he would reach over to hold my hand, and I would pull away. And my mom, like, I don't know. I can't remember the exact words she said, but it was very much like, I know he wouldn't do it. He didn't do it. I know she was mad at him at one point for a brief second, and she's like, oh, chut bol diya then. And he was like, I don't know, but I didn't do anything. And I remember saying, I'm not lying. I'm not lying.
So from that day onwards, two parts to the question. Did he ever attempt to touch you again? And what was your relationship with your mom?
I never really had a good relationship to begin with. But it became very aggressive from her side. And it became very like repulsive. She would say taunting things to me. She would say just like hurtful, mean things, call me names, tell me I'm a certain kind of individual, distinguishing characteristics about me.
Do you remember any of that?
I do. She would say like, oh, you're the other woman. She went to that extent.
So if she's disbelieving you, why would she say you're the other woman in his life?
Yeah, I don't know. She would say things like, I stole him. I stole him. She would say things like, I ruined the family. She would say things like,
So it was
like,
never his fault.
Like,
It was never his fault, it's your fault.
Never his fault, according to her.
So you put yourself out there and you led him on and you've done certain things.
Yeah.
According to your mom.
According to her. And his behavior, even though he didn't do anything after that, he was very still taunting. He would stand really, really, really close to me and like watch over my shoulder. He would still put on certain channels on TV and then switch them off or say, oh, I'm not watching this, the kids are. And yeah, and I would be sitting there with a book open and I couldn't say anything, because if I said anything or if I even denied that we were watching it, I would get in trouble. A lot of physical beating.
When did this abuse start and who did this abuse?
So it started very young, about the age of 6, and it was my father.
And how far back can you remember, not sexual abuse, but the physical violence against you?
I don't know any different. Touching my thigh, and he was touching my arm, going through the top of my shirt or under my shorts. We have this mattress that we would pray on, and he would often sit and pray on it, and sometimes he would lay on that mattress, his hand down his pants. I don't think I ever slept. I can't tell anybody it's my dad. She would say things like, I ruined the family.
I know from our previous talks, and we have been sort of talking to you for the last couple of years, you run away from home.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because you've hit rock bottom and that's the only way out, or?
Oh yeah, I hit rock bottom. Any which way I turned just came with more pain. Anytime I tried to seek some sort of external help or cry out for help, it came with more abuse. And there was just no getting away from the pain of all of it. And
Did you talk to any other adults?
by then, no. I did end up seeing somebody at that time. I had a boyfriend. I did tell him. So, and that's what I mean, like any avenue I tried to take to get some sort of like, this happened to me. Whereas now when I look back, it's a cry for help. It came with more abuse.
So before you run off, you've got this other guy in your life, and you're now telling him certain things. This is happening to you, and this is what he's done.
I've never really gone into detail. I just told him like my dad has done this to me.
Okay, so running away. I mean,
It was just the end of it for me. I didn't really have a plan. The only thing I thought about was dying, and that killing myself was the only way out. That there's no way, there's no out. That's the only option. That's the only option that presented itself. That's the only option that was so real to me. Nothing else. There was nowhere I could have gone for help. No, I couldn't go to the police. I couldn't go to the Gurdwara. I couldn't go to other adults. Nothing.
so running away. Did you just, normal day at school? You're going to school and you don't come back home or something. How did you manage to run away?
I attended a religious camp in Gurdwara, and we had a field trip. And
And this was in Brampton.
in Brampton at a Gurdwara that my parents went to a lot. We went to a lot every day almost, and my dad helped build in the beginning. He helped out a lot with the Gurdwara. He was well recognized. And I went on this camp, and I was a volunteer, and I never came home from that camp. I left from where we went to this camp was the Royal Ontario Museum, and it was in Toronto. And I never got back on the bus.
What year was that?
This was in 2000.
So there was a field trip out with all the campers.
So we went to the Gurdwara, and then we got on a bus, like a school bus. Well, a bunch of us got on a bus. We drove to Toronto. And but I lasted the whole day. It was near the end.
While you were at that place, did the thought occur to you that this is the day I'm going, or was it a spur of the moment thing?
No, all day I was like, okay, this is it. I'm not going back. So I guess in a way it was premeditated. But yeah, it's like I built myself up all day and was like, this is it.
So at the end of the day, when everybody's sort of getting back onto the buses, you've had the tour of the museum, Do you remember what part of the museums that you sort of went to and why did see campers or going to a museum?
Yeah, there was something to do with Sikhism.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact details of it.
So there were Sikh artifacts brought to that museum,
Yeah.
and
It was a really big deal. It's a really big deal.
okay. So here you are at the end of the day. Everybody's getting on the bus, and that's your.
Yeah, so we rallied up at one place in the museum, and I never rallied up with them. I left.
Did anybody see you go?
As I walked out and was walking away from the museum, I did glance back, and there was a kid, and he was looking through the window, and he did see me, and I just kept walking.
Since the Gurdwara had opened their doors, me and my mom, we used to go there pretty much 6 days a week. Every year, every summer, they had a Gurmat camp. There's one specific Gurmat camp stood out. Every camp, even Punjabi classes, history classes, they would always teach us the importance of our history. They would tell us stories. And obviously, Maharaja Ranjit Singh, he really stood out. And this one specific camp was so special. It was actually in 2000. They brought Maharaja Ranjit Singh's throne to the Royal Ontario Museum. So, naturally all the kids were excited. They get to do a field trip to the ROM. When everything was done, we all went back to our buses. I was 9 years old. I think I was actually turning 10 the following month. And news had spread that a girl ran away from camp. And I asked my mom, I was like, why would she run away? And the one story that went throughout everybody almost instantaneously was Omonde Nal Bhaji. I asked my mom how old she was. I knew who she was. She was my camp counselor. She was volunteering at the camp. She looked after us. My mom said she was 15. Like, how can a 15-year-old run away? Why would she run away? I was still a kid at the time, right? So like, I didn't grasp the gravity of the situation. The first piece of information that we are fed, we latch onto. Not just kids, but adults and everybody. And that first piece of information that was fed to everybody was, Omonde Nal Bhaji.
Where did you run to?
That day I ended up around the corner, a couple of blocks down, to a payphone, and there was a subway station. And that's it.
And you made a call to someone?
I did, and then I ended up in Sarnia, Ontario.
I didn't know that Navdeep was going to run away. Navdeep has always tried to protect me from everything. So she wouldn't have told me. It was summer. I was on holidays at my aunt's house. That's where my brother and I went every summer, pretty much every summer at that age. And there was a call. My aunt answered and said that someone wanted to speak to me. So I was really surprised because I knew it wasn't my parents, she would have said. And when I answered, it was Navdeep on the phone. So I was immediately afraid, but happy, but afraid. She told me the situation, and I think as soon as she finished her sentence, I just started sobbing. And I don't know why I had such a reaction, but I had in my mind this idea that that was the last time, like I would never see her again. And she completely made light of the whole situation. She told me that everything was fine. She sounded like she was laughing, jovial about it, trying to calm me down and just, Dan, it's fine. There's nothing you need to worry about. Everything's okay. But I think I just knew that it wasn't. Deep down, I think I knew it wasn't. I just sort of said, oh, okay, so it is okay. I think I was in a bit of denial.
How many days before they found you? How many days were you?
A couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So you were with this guy's relatives, or were you hanging out in hotels, or?
Just anywhere. Yeah, hotels. I had many attempts of suicide by then in those 2 weeks. Tried many different routes. And it wasn't until one of the last hotels they ended up calling the police because there was a lot of blood on their bed sheets. And
So you tried to slit your throat,
Wrist.
wrists.
Mm-hmm.
And this person was with you at that time?
Yeah,
He never tried to stop?
not once. Not once.
So where was the help?
It just
You picked the wrong guy.
redefined that I shouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm. That was one attempt. Other attempts, what were they?
I tried to drown myself in the middle of the ocean. I didn't know how to swim back then, so I swam out with a floaty and let go of the floating device.
So this place was near an ocean, or
Yeah.
Ontario Lake, or?
There's a lake nearby.
No, okay.
And I laid on train tracks and just,
And all the time this person was with you?
yeah.
So when you lay on a track, he would just let you lay on a track, that's it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think back to that time a lot. And I think back and think like, not one person. All these people that claim they love me and care for me, not one person.
You say the attempted suicide, slitting your wrists, and then the hotel people have called the police.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they pick you up, you're probably already on a missing list.
Mm-hmm.
So your parents must have been called straight away?
No, because I was 16, they did not call them right away.
Mm-hmm.
But they did tell me, they asked me if I was aware that there was a missing person alert on me, and I said no.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept asking me again and again what happened, and I was like, just don't tell my parents. If my dad comes, he's gonna kill me. Just please don't tell them.
Mm-hmm.
And but they kept they wanted more information. They were asking why and whatnot and all this stuff, and I just kept reinforcing he's gonna kill me. He's gonna kill me.
But you never told them about the abuse?
No, I told them about the physical abuse. I told them there's a lot of physical abuse. That's why I know he's gonna kill me if he finds me.
Mm-hmm. So from then, in a police station, How quickly are you brought back to Brampton?
I'm not. I didn't come back to Brampton until a few months later.
And where are you staying at this time? With the same guy?
No, I was in a shelter. I was in a women's shelter. And first I was in the hospital for a little bit. And then I was in a women's shelter.
Okay. So after a couple of months, you're back in Brampton? Back
And
home?
No, not back home. I agreed to come back to Brampton after, who is now my ex-husband, repeatedly asked me to come back and we would get married. And my biggest thing was that if I come back here, they're going to take me away. They're going to find some reason, some excuse to take me back, and I know they're going to kill me for a fact. And the police did they had found out somehow, my parents, that we were in Sarnia through somebody else who was Indian and in Sarnia. And then I went to the police and told them, like, look, my parents are trying to contact me, and they asked me what I wanted to do, and I knew they weren't going to stop. And I said, okay. There was a meeting that was arranged that they came to Sarnia, and me and now my ex-husband would get married. And I had told him, like, they would find a way to get me back, and he had brought up that, we should just get married. At that point, I didn't know that his information was coming from somewhere else. My parents were repeatedly saying that we should get married, and we should get married. There was talk in the community about this and how I had run off with a guy. There was no talk about the abuse or what had happened at home or what had transcribed in order for me that led up to those events.
So you were painted as a black sheep of the family.
Very
badly.
much, very much.
So you now agree to the wedding, you come back, and the wedding takes place in Brampton, does it?
It does, actually, at one of Brampton's Gurdwaras, Glidden Gurdwara.
I remember being really, really happy because I wasn't aware of what had happened. I wasn't fully aware of everything that happened. I was just happy that she was back. I was happy that she was getting away from home. I was just happy to be, like, in her presence and part of a big day for her. I do remember when I got the pictures from that day that my parents had taken. I remember looking at the pictures and realizing that while I was so happy, she wasn't. And I was only able to really see it in the pictures that she was disconnected.
Is that the Gurdwara you would normally go to as a young kid?
Yes,
And
and that's where the camp happened.
They organised their camp as well. Okay, and that's where your father would serve.
Yeah.
And you did mention he was very prominent within the community, had a good standing within the community.
Very much, yeah.
So, Dippy, you married off, and we know that the marriage doesn't last. And so you're back on your own, and you're struggling with life. Did you ever come back home to Brampton, stay with your parents, or were you trying to make it out on your own with your child?
No, I have been on my own with my child since. I never moved back home. I never wanted to, and I never lived with any relative. I've been on my own since my divorce, and to be honest, I've met all kinds of people that'll sway you the wrong way. And to come from such a such a traumatized mind, and looking for that, safe ground or somebody to help you or somebody to rescue you it's such a need that, like, it outweighs anything rational. And I came across a lot of people. I've had to walk out of situations that I thank God for every day, because
I know we mentioned that you were nearly trafficked and made to do certain things which you didn't want to do, all because of your life, really, where your life was heading. I mean, from 14 and 13 and 15, finding out and running away and getting married, When did you actually file against your father?
That didn't happen until January 2016, and it was a year after confronting them again.
Okay, so coming back to the confronting, what made you confront them? What were you struggling with life, or?
I had had an accident, and I had nearly lost my life, and it was a huge call for me. I couldn't fathom them having a link with my daughter, and they're my biological fathers. He's my biological father. I remember thinking like he would just have a direct access if something happened to me. And I remember going through a period after the accident where every memory that I suppressed about this abuse came
Flooding out.
everything just came right in the forefront. And I did go through a period where I didn't know how to manage it. I did go through a period where I was saying it to everybody and anybody that was listening. And then finally, when I got to more stable grounds, I realized that like nothing was helping me, and I needed to do something more. I needed to do something that would actually be heard, something that would bring me justice. And it wasn't until a year later, so January 2016.
So a year before, you've come to your family home. You, after the accident, you sat the whole family down and just blurted it out. And
Yeah.
what were you expecting?
I was expecting support, love, some sort of justice, and got none of that.
Did it at that point? Did he admit?
He did. He admitted it to my mom. It took a lot for me to like just sit there and be like, I am not leaving this house until you say what has happened.
Okay, so once he's admitted it to your mother, does your relationship with your mother change in any way?
No.
It still didn't go down well.
Nope. It was just another like facade of okay, and then you're done with it.
And forget about it.
Yeah.
Now. It's happened. Forget about it.
And
Move
he
on.
even made a point to say he doesn't owe me anything. He doesn't need to ask for my forgiveness. And he was very still in his own persona. Like he's the man. He's the father. He's the person. Like he doesn't owe anything. He didn't do anything.
So January 2016 is when you report this case to the police
I do.
about sexual abuse and everything.
Yeah.
And obviously he's arrested
Yes.
and the case starts.
Yes.
Yeah. When did this abuse start and who did this abuse?
So it started very young, about the age of 6, and it was my father. Killing myself was the only way out. I attended a religious camp in Gurdwara. My dad helped build in the beginning. He helped out a lot with the Gurdwara. He was well recognized. Where we went to this camp was the Royal Ontario Museum. I had many attempts of suicide. I laid on train tracks.
2016 is when you report this case to the police
I do.
about sexual abuse and everything. It's been literally just over 3 years since we started talking about this on Facebook, on the internet, and you filed the case in 2016, January,
Yes.
and 3 years later, you end up in court.
Yeah.
How was that for you? How's that? Just go with the weight. What were you experiencing?
A lot. Everything from fear, there was guilt there, all my shame was coming up. I felt confused so many times if I'm following the path that is right, but I knew it was right for me. I was scared to see everybody and to know that they were all on one side. I didn't know what that would mean. I wasn't sure what the trial process would be. And I was aware they would bring certain things up about me personally. I didn't know how much weight that would carry in the court. And so that was scaring me. Having to relive everything and talk about it in such a way in front of them was very fearful. In the past, I've just been superficial about it and it's just limited to abuse or the term, not really going into any detail or how it's made me feel. So the vulnerability I had to kind of walk in with was something that took me a long time to get to. A lot of therapy, a lot of treatment, a lot of beliefs that I had to tackle before getting to that place. It was scary. It's one of the scariest things I've ever had to do. And I had to fight an internal battle with my own thoughts and externally with everybody around me. Seeing everybody on one side, it just ignites that same belief that maybe I'm doing something wrong because
Was there
I'm
any,
alone.
at any point you've got notice now that this is a particular date, this is when court's going to start? Was there at any point where you felt you couldn't go through with it?
No. I knew it was going to be really difficult, but I knew I had to go through with it. And the thought, there was no other option. So however it was going to be, whatever I had to do to ground myself, to get myself back up, I'd have to go through it.
But with a lot of frustrations, because during this, we've been following for 3.5 years, with all the cancellations of the dates, you have a date and then you get to the date and it's moved to another date because of some technicality. How
For
did that make you
sure.
feel?
Very there was a lot of feelings of disappointment. It felt like time and time again, there was just something that kept coming up and it was never going to get there, or nobody was going to hear it, or maybe there were all these thoughts that were like, maybe this would happen or that would happen, or what about this? Maybe he'll walk away because it's been a lapse in time. Maybe they'll find something else that'll solidify his innocence, or they'll conjure something up, some sort of evidence, or they'll find something on me. So there was a lot of paranoia that would go into it every time it was changed. And I would have to work really hard to bring myself to grounds where I'm stable and grounded and comfortable talking about what I need to talk about, regardless of everything that was happening in my head.
Now, this is your first experience of court, is it? Or
Yes.
right. So your first experience, did the Crown, because obviously the Crown took the case on, how were they towards the whole process? Did you feel comfortable in the way they were doing certain things? Did you get all the support that you required from them?
To be completely
Or
honest,
did you understand the whole process? You were in...
I did, for the most part. There are certain things, like I myself, I'm not in law, so I don't know. But if I did have a question, I was able to ask them. They were very forthcoming. They gave me the information I needed. If I had questions, they answered it. Even before the court processing started, I met with them a few times. Certain things I was thinking about, certain things that were brought on by my paranoia, and they were great with me. The support team, Victim Services, was great with me as well. They made me feel safe, comfortable. They did mention, don't do anything that's going to push you over. Make sure that you're, my self-care is first. So that was really beneficial. It wasn't so much about, you got to go in there, you got to do this, you have to do this. It was like, we are going to walk with you. Whatever you need, whatever supports you need, the time you need to take. I was able to take certain grounding techniques with me. I had a picture with me. I had a rock that I carried with me to help me ground. I had a picture of my daughter, of my dog. I had, I was able to use a saying that I had on a Post-it, and water breaks. I also, in the prelim, I had a therapy dog to help me. And it was very supportive. And some of the things are beyond my control. It's beyond their control. So they were very, They're very honest where they could be, and like, there's nothing we could do. Here's what we can do. This is what we are doing. They were very informative.
Did you familiarize yourself in court before the actual day? Did you actually come into court? Did you ever sat in a courtroom? Did you feel
I did not.
all that energy?
No, I did not. I didn't sit in the courtroom. They did tell me that I could do that. I chose not to do it. I felt like if by any means the courtroom changed and I was comfortable in one courtroom, then it would bring on more uneasiness in a new courtroom. But I did meet with the victim services and was familiar with the staff that would be around. So that made it comforting. And yeah, it was just, you kind of roll the dice and you just go with it.
So how was that first day? The days finally arrived, all the postponements and everything now behind you, you're in court, and you're seeing the accused, who's your father. How did it make you feel? Honestly.
I felt like a 14-year-old all over again. I felt like,
Was it that little girl battling your father?
yes.
It wasn't a navvy at 30 odd.
No, it was a little girl. And and the looks I was getting were having the same internal impacts. It was like I was right back there. The fear would cave in. I had to shake off a lot of things. I had to pace myself. I tried not to look their way. I tried not to sit around them. I was really on edge. It was really difficult because it felt like you said, it felt like it was a little girl and not this woman who's taking a stance for something that she knows is wrong.
Were you strong enough, or were you still fearing that person sitting on the other side?
Sorry, say that again?
Were you fearing that person? On
I
the other
was.
side?
I was. Anytime he would look at me, it felt like I was right back there. It was the same look, the same intimidation factors. It came from other members of the family, and it's just the same things that they have done. And it really, as much therapy as I've done, it really makes you
You're not prepared for it.
remember. No,
But-
you're not prepared because you don't know that there's such an emotional connection connected to an intimidation factor, and that emotion doesn't go. So that kept coming up again and again.
Was it just your father that you couldn't really look at, or obviously you had your whole family supporting your father's cause? So your sister, your brother, your cousins, or
No,
whatever.
it was everybody. Everybody was being kind of a so-called bully, intimidating. And they just had this like sternness about them that I was the one that was wrong and I was doing something wrong. And yeah, I felt like a
But did
14-year-old.
at any
being
time
bullied.
there the thought of quitting occurred, or it made you stronger and you wanted to see it all the way through and prove your innocence?
No, I wanted to see it through. It never occurred to me to stop. It was just, it's really disheartening. And just to kind of see them all over again, and you're going through the exact same thing you've gone through again and again in life. And here you are in a court of law where you're trying to get justice for something that is so heinous, and you still see the same people and they're still behaving the same way. They're still not understanding what this is. They're still not understanding the depths of like this injury. And it just, I got to a point where every day that I was in court, and I was in court for a few weeks, little by little, I was just breaking away from that connection from them, which was great by the end of it. But during that process, it was heartbreaking.
Because it cut the baggage. There's no more holding you back.
Yeah.
So every day was. So when you finished the session in court and you got home, did you switch off, or were you still?
I tried. I did try. I tried to keep my evenings light because I would be back in the morning. But it's hard. It's very hard to separate from it. I tried not to like go through the day completely, but the feeling, the emotional side of it stays with you. Just seeing them there, seeing them hugging each other, telling each other they're doing a good job and they're functioning as a unit, things like that. And it just further, it's like isolation. You get stuck in that isolation. And I would fight thoughts like, well, why are they on the same side? Why are they congratulating each other? Like, this is something so wrong. And
did you ever
those
feel
things
that because they were hugging and looking cheerful, and do you ever feel you've left a court case and thinking you've lost it?
I did a few times. Yeah. Because I don't know, like, I don't know what they're happy about, or where they think they're winning or losing or whatever it is. And it's a loss on its own. Like, I was the outside, I was the like outcasted. So it just, again and again, it's just a loss. It's like, there's nobody, like, that's supposed to be my family. That's supposed to be my supporting system. And here I am doing it alone, but they're supporting each other for lying, for defending each other, for like even telling each other what to do, which is completely against everything, to be in a courtroom. So things like that, it was just like, they're still doing it.
What did you find hard, being on stand or listening to them on stand? Or it was easy?
Both were very difficult. It was hard to be on that stand and know that everything I'm saying is being translated to him. And such vulnerable information, personal, private information, it made me feel like I'm giving him ammunition. I'm giving them ammunition.
Did you at any time felt being abused again in that manner? Because
Yeah, when I was when the defense would come on, it would feel like it's just a repeat of everything, and it would go to, you're lying, you know, this never happened, that never happened. So it brings up all those feelings that are like, I'm not lying, but here I am taking it again because I have to take it. There's a sense of there's no control in it. So you get reminded of all the times that somebody said you're lying, somebody said they don't believe you, or somebody said it never happened. All those times come flooding back. All like.
did you ever at any time in court ever believe that what the defense was saying could be possibly a minute bit of truth in it?
Not when it came to specifics about the abuse, but in terms of memory. There were some times when I even said to him, yeah, you're right, it happened this way, I was wrong before, because it's a lapse in memory. But other than that, no, like, my abuse will always be my forefront. It's not something that might have happened, or it was like a 5% this or 10% that. No, it's very factual. This is how it happened, this is when it happened. But it's been a long time, so things do get distorted.
And your trial was over a period of what?
4 weeks.
4 weeks, but it was set aside for
Only 10 days.
only 10 days. How did that make you feel then?
Tiring. It was very draining. It was tiring. It was frustrating because it just kept coming from defense's side and their side, things that they just kept prolonging or wanted to pin at or wanted to talk about, which had no relevance to the case. So it took a lot of energy to kind of be patient and like just live in my own truth as opposed to everything they're trying to bring up, and know that like it's not in my control, and that component of it's not in my control, is so hard for a survivor to like give that much control up when you're speaking about such vulnerable things.
So, you know, when you're on stand, you can't talk to your barrister or your solicitor. So what sort of comforted you or gave you the strength and says, I've done all right today, but you can't talk to your barrister, you can't question them, or you can't talk to your solicitor? What support network was around you then? Would it be your daughter? Would it be...
I did have my daughter. She wasn't there every day, but she was at home. I did have victim services, as I mentioned. They were able to tell me, like, you know, you're good, like, don't worry about it. Again, not talking about any details or anything. I did have another support from an organization, PCHS, and they were great. They were great. She kind of would debrief me at the end of it, be like, "This is, it felt like you were getting frustrated at a certain level. Know that you're safe now." Just to kind of go over a safety strategy, a grounding technique. I had like a few things in place. So if I was looking at her and she was in the courtroom, I would take a glass of water just to give myself that break. And I had to like really, really stay in tune with myself. And if at any point I felt I was dissociating, I had to really find myself to come back or take a break, because you tend to dissociate when there's so much information coming your way.
So it's not an easy process.
It is by far one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do.
Because you are reliving their memories and you're going through the moments and it's all flooding back. The imagery, it's like a film being replayed.
Yeah. And I have
And
to
heard
say
again
it.
and again and again.
Exactly. And I have to say it from a third perspective. I can't say it from that little girl. I can't say it from like the woman that continuously got abused. It has to be like, for me, in order for me to say everything and answer all the questions, it had to come from a place of such grounds that it couldn't be like all the emotions I was feeling, all the negative stuff that was happening inside. I had to really flush it out and really concentrate on facts and concentrate on answering the question, keeping myself grounded, making sure I'm breathing, making sure I'm taking my break. It takes so much energy.
Draining them.
Very draining.
And over 4 weeks, it's quite a task. Well, the good thing is, we know you won.
Yes.